You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Oh, you guys caught me wearing my Pam shirt. Just kidding, I'm wearing my Pama shirt. You guys are watching Kickin It With Onrie, the live crowdfunding show. And today we got an awesome guest. This dude is the man. He is spearheading one of the coolest Kung Fu-based Kickstarters out there right now. It's some freaking awesome stuff. So kick back and get ready to chat with this dude. I'll see you guys in a second.
For years, I have traveled the world slinging my creator-owned comics at the biggest and hottest cons. Now I'm sitting down with creators who have active crowdfunding campaigns happening right now, and I'm opening the gateway so that you can connect with them and support their work. You're watching Kickin It With Onrie, the live crowdfunding show.
Welcome back, everybody, to Kickin It With Onrie, the live crowdfunding show. I am your host, Onrie Kompan, and it is great to be here with you guys. I'm on the mend from my second COVID takedown here, and I am officially like 95% back to normal. So I will be back on line next week with live sales, and I've got a big collection that I'm going to be moving through, and I'm also going to be filling in for Jen King's CBSN show on Monday afternoon from 12 to 2 Central, and then be sure to check out Nancy tonight. And she's also going to be on Monday for Jen's normal slot. She's going to be taking that up from 8 to 10 Central on Monday. So this is something you guys need to be on the lookout for. Nancy has one of the best, awesomest shows on the Experience, and she is a wonderful dealer. Now, let's get to our guest for today. We have an awesome, outstanding guest. Rob Owens, what's up, man? Richard Ship, how you doing? You guys don't like crowds? Come on, you like crowds. That's why you're watching the show, you know, and you don't have to wait in line at conventions and all that stuff. That's the whole point of this show. So you can literally pull up your phone and, you know, check out and talk to creators and directly support them. And I got an amazing creator here for you guys this afternoon. We got Peter Shao of Immortal Studio. Oh man, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Oh, guys, I'm talking to you. I feel like I should be doing this.
You are doing this. You're just doing it on Kickstarter, which is really
I am doing it. I'm following your lead. I love how animated you are, so I'm going to join you and do this.
That's excellent, excellent, excellent. So, Peter, why don't you tell us all who you are and what you do?
Sure. I am Peter Shao. I'm the founder of Immortal Studios. I'm also the chief creator for the world's first interconnected wuxia. Wuxia is the Chinese term for the martial arts fantasy genre. This is, I believe, one of the oldest genres in the whole world. So we're building our first interconnected universe in the genre ever. And we've already had multiple successes on Kickstarter. Is this show live? Did I lose our host?
Yes, no, I'm here. I'm just getting my my internet hardlined, so I'm hearing everything you're saying. Just keep going. You're good, man.
Look, we're building an interconnected world, and we just went live about a week ago with our third story called Fasheng Origins. So for those of you who've been covering our story, please look us up on Kickstarter. You can find the Adept, which is the first installment of the story. Chronicles of the Immortal Swordsman is our second installment. And third is Fasheng Origins. And I would say this is the most ambitious project because we actually go back in time. We go back to a historically very significant, interesting time that's known as the Boxer Rebellion. And in addition to covering this huge chunk of history that happened about 100 years ago, where many people in China actually believed they had supernatural powers to stop this incursion of colonization that was taking place in their world, they actually formed in bands. They believed that through practicing their martial arts, they became invulnerable to bullets. So it turned out pretty tragically that many of these people who thought they had supernatural powers didn't, and they eventually were taken down. So we chose this as a backdrop. One is a really interesting time Two is that I think what was really on trial was like how good are martial arts, how good is the mystical kung fu that we read about in movies, and this actually happened in real life. We kind of have the chief instigator of the Immortal storyverse. He first appears as a dream teacher to the first character that's launched through the Adept. We don't know who he is. He just shows up, kicks ass. You don't know his backstory. So we're actually going back to this period of time where he actually became this supernatural enlightened master. But of course, he doesn't start that way. He starts off as a kid who's confused, and we go on this journey and learn from how this kid eventually becomes the enlightened master who even defies death. So it's incredibly ambitious. We go back in real historical terms, and we also introduce the founder of the Shaolin Temple, Bodhidharma, who is kind of the original myth maker of all things Kung Fu. He is the teacher to our Fa Sheng character. So we have a lot of massive threads that are deeply important to this martial arts fantasy genre, and they've never been put together this way before. So I say this is one of the most ambitious martial arts fantasy undertakings ever, because it goes to the myth of these things that we still enjoy today, with characters that are real and also reimagined. And we also weave in the founding of the Shaolin Temple. So it's an incredibly ambitious undertaking, and it's live on Kickstarter right now. We're really proud of it.
I've backed this campaign, and Peter, you're talking my language here. This is the kind of book that I want to.
It couldn't happen anywhere else. It could not happen anywhere else.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it can. You would figure it out. You're that kind of, like, what I've been seeing you do on the internet since you guys have launched this campaign over the last 2 weeks, and we were brought together by a mutual collaborator of ours, Dexter Wee, who is just a phenomenal artist. Guys, let me just tell you right now, I have seen the artwork on Fa Sheng. You guys can go and check out the Kickstarter. The artwork is so good on this book. I cannot tell you enough. I'm actually working with the artist as well on a separate project, but it's amazing. Dexter's sense of sequential action and his understanding of martial arts is like bar none in comics. I mean, this book looks absolutely insane, Peter, and I love your approach to it. I love that you start at one point and then decide to go back and tell the origin story later. It is a bold thing to do, especially when you're like in the middle of your story. And this is a great jump on point. A lot of people think like issue 3, it's like, I got to go back and get issue 1. No, you can actually pick up issue 3 and, get.
By the way, this is not issue 3. This is issue 1 to our third title.
Okay, so it's even so. So it's like your third. It's so like
they're interdependent.
Is it all part of the same? Or is
it's a shared universe. It's a shared universe.
Got it. Okay.
It's a shared universe, but it's its own unique story with its own villains. It's interdependent, but he is the master figure in our first title called The Adept. But he's already a fully enlightened ass-kicking master already. So, you're not going to see how he became that way. So through this particular title, we actually dial back in time, and we don't usually see this. Like, it's kind of seen like how Yoda became Yoda.
Yeah.
We just assume Yoda's been kicking ass and being wise this whole time. But, of course we see baby Yoda, but I don't know whether so we're kind of seeing how an enlightened martial master actually becomes that through the authentic lens of Shaolin Kung Fu. And we also learn from the founder of Shaolin himself, Bodhidharma, who becomes Fa Sheng's teacher. So, for people who are into this genre, I would say the level of ambition is off the charts. It's really off the charts.
Let's peel back the layers for a second, because here's something I'm really interested to know. Why comics? Why this particular? I mean, you could have explored this in so many different ways, but why comics? What brought you into this world and made you think, you know what, because this entire story is ambitious. Everything you're building with this universe is ambitious. Mm-hmm. Why comics and not some other platform?
Well, first of all, I think comics it's a wonderful medium to communicate nuance, tone, pacing, characters, depth, because the kind of things that that you have at your disposal in terms of media is just an infinite amount. And the fact that you could do it relatively quickly, and the fact that you could actually go, you can imagine it and then partner with a great writer such as Ryland Grant in our case, and also an artist like Dexter Weed. Like there's no, if we were to iterate this story in movies, for instance, we're talking about $150 million movie. You know, like we opened it up and our editor said it felt like a David Lean film. I mean, we definitely, we even have like scenes out of the Imperial Palace. So comics, I think it's just, there's no limitation to where you can go if you have the imagination for it, if you have the ambition for it. So it's perfect. We can tell incredibly huge stories. We can go back in time. We could make all these connections, and we can do it relatively inexpensively in a way that could be deeply nuanced and complex, you know. So we could do it in a number of different ways, and sometime we may want to do that. I'm happy to share, like the Adept just received our first movie offer, and
oh wow, that's incredible.
We're just really out the gate. I just got the offer this afternoon, so
wow, that's incredible. Congratulations. You guys are hearing it first. This is the time to back the campaign right now, guys.
So look, the Immortal Storyverse we're starting to take off, and we started with Kickstarter, and we're never going to leave. We started with fans who just believed in what we're doing and pitching in, and you know the numbers really made a big difference. And we're a small publishing house, so every penny that we get actually enables us to print and do more of the stuff that we do. So the fact that we're now onto our third title is the testament to the strength of, you know, the love that we've been given. So, you know, I'm here to say thank you, and also to say this is a great time to come in, because this is one of those really complex, difficult things that you wouldn't find anywhere else. I'm committed to it, and I wanted to tell that story, but you couldn't find a network, for instance, or, you know, a movie producer to spend $150 million and tell that story right now.
You know, I was having a conversation with this about this with another publisher the other day, about how we are in this time where comic book properties are just really blowing up, but it's always the people that the creators that people recognize whose work is getting picked up. And right now, the biggest challenge that we face as independent guys is exposure. Really, I mean, it's hard to be everywhere at once when you don't have the manpower, the established creators, or even the established licenses to really grow your brand. So doing exactly what you've been doing at this grassroots level is really just, you know, going you're climbing a mountain. You know, you're going up scale, and it's very it's very tough to do this. It's you know, I've been doing it for 12 years now, and I think it's just so fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that just out the gate you're already able to pull this stuff together, and I'm seeing how you're working connections and everything. It's really just incredible. So I'm wondering, what kinds of influence do you have within the world of comics? Like how did you get into this particular field, and how have you immersed yourself so deeply in the community?
Look, I would say I grew up reading comics as a kid, but I would say my first I was first and foremost a geek on martial arts fantasy novels. So as a Chinese kid growing up, my thing was reading in Chinese martial arts novels, which kind of from where I came from, that's synonymous with comics. And of course, you know, I came to America as a 10-year-old and quickly got into X-Men and Marvel and DC. So I was doing both of them in tandem, but never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would actually be in that business. I was just a fan. I enjoyed reading these characters. I enjoyed, in particular, these kind of martial heroes that kind of, they took me somewhere. And because these themes are always about empowerment or becoming more of what you believe you're capable of, and kind of really getting into the inherent nobility of the human spirit, the inherent potential that we have as people that are untapped, that through these kind of lineages and masters, and that you actually become the person that you've always wanted to be, or you thought you were going to be, or you're capable of being. That's kind of like the major thread of the martial hero genre. So I fell in love with it, and I went on with my life pursuing a career in other industries. And it wasn't until I was about to run for office. I actually had become pretty successful as a political aide, as a lobbyist, and I was running kind of the careers of various elected officials, and I was on the way to becoming one myself when I had an epiphany one day that I really wanted to. The reason that I was interested in public service was actually to make a difference in people's lives. And then I had this big realization that what really makes a difference in people's lives is culture. And in that stories, our collective stories is really what shapes the culture. And when I had that realization, I was like, well, I'm not going to wear these suits anymore. I want to be at the vanguard of storytelling. And because my father had been a wildly successful creator in this martial arts fantasy genre.
Wow! So your father actually wrote these books.
He didn't write this particular book. I created.
No. He wrote no. You're saying he wrote martial arts fantasy books.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
So
is that what got you into them?
Oh yeah. So our dinner table conversations were around characters and what makes a real hero, and different types of archetypes, and what kind of kung fu would that be. So those were our dinner table conversations, and I didn't think it would. So it deeply impacted me, and I also saw that it was not an impossible thing to do. That actually you can do it. So I never perceived that, even though I didn't try it myself, that it was kind of off limits to me. So that kind of started me on my career, and it would be 20 years later after I'd become a movie producer, and I learned how to do different aspects of the business. And then I had an epiphany that I really wanted to spend the rest of my creative and business life on going back into this martial arts fantasy genre that was my first love. And of course, fast forward to the person I was already, I had become a martial artist. I had kind of lived a life that came from the books. And I don't know how this happened to be, but I actually had a chance to manage like the Shaolin brand. I was actually living the life of a real martial hero as a normal human. And I wanted to really bring that world together. So with all of that in mind, I knew it would take me a few $1 billion if I were going to make them as movies, and that wasn't going to happen. And I wanted to do something that was immediate, that was fun, that didn't have any limitations. And I not only wanted to do that, I wanted to build it with people who loved it the way that I did, and I wanted to partner with them. And that was really what began the Immortal journey. So my father passed away 3 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. No, our process was complete. He's had an amazing life.
He got to see you achieve the level of success that you were striving for.
Oh yes, he's incredibly proud of me. But when he left, I knew that my time had come, because my own mentorship was completed, and I was ready to step up and do my thing now. And Immortal, as is currently known, is what was born. So it's been a lifelong journey to get to this point. And when I really settled on comics as the first place where we're going to start and end with, my whole life changed. And so this is a long-winded way of saying it was a lifelong journey to get to this point. And, I came into the comic business basically 2 years ago. never having produced a comic, never having written or drawn one. And I was just welcomed with open arms. You know, I was just embraced by this community. And I had a career in Hollywood prior to this where it was pretty competitive, cutthroat place. There wasn't a whole lot of community. There wasn't there is celebration, but there's always this kind of like, hey, there's a finite amount of things that get made. You know, if I move my piece forward, you have to step back. I didn't find any of that, and it was incredibly healing. The fact that we're on this call with you right now, you're a creator yourself, and as I am, but we're talking about it, you know, just really celebrating and sharing this moment together, and for the love of the story, for the love of the medium. So I've been so great. I'm so grateful for the chance to be in this industry, and I say this every chance I get, that we're here to stay, that we really want to make a contribution, and I think our work speaks for itself.
It absolutely does. And be sure, guys, if you haven't yet, be sure to click that link. Go to the Kickstarter. Back Fashing right now. I already backed it as well. So you guys know that I didn't even wait until the show was happening. I backed this project the day of the launch, and I'm really looking forward to getting my books. So, Peter, I have to just kind of sum this up because there's a lot for me to process right now. So you're basically a marketing guru. You worked in politics, which is a great platform for basically learning how to reach people and how to get a message across. And I can see that you're utilizing those skills very, very to like incredible effect through everything you're doing on crowdfunding, including the fact that you're just here right now. But on top of that, you have this very rich creative background too, from that has been passed down by your father, and martial arts. So I'm really, really fascinated to hear about your martial arts experience, because I also used to study martial arts as well. I did Taekwondo, and I never really got into Kung Fu in terms of, I've never practiced it, but I've always had a sincere and deep fascination with Kung Fu. So I would love to hear your history. Please, like, tell us everything about your martial arts history.
Seriously, right now? You want to hear about my martial arts history?
Yes, I do. Why not? That's what we're here to talk about, man.
Look, it runs deep.
Onrie up. Of course he can beat me up. What are you talking about? Are you guys kidding me? If I see this guy in public, he will kick my ass, period. If
let me just be really nice. I will say this, that because of my unique background and my history and my lineage, you know, this really fantastical world that people read about or you're seeing movies about, I'll just say this, that it's the real thing for me. It's not fantasy, it's real life, because I have seen and walked with real masters. And that so part of creating this universe and then really diving in to a lot of the stories and the characters is really to pay an homage to a living lineage that actually is still very present with us. It's just kind of gone underground. So I have to say that first and foremost, I don't consider myself a martial artist. I made the mistake of saying that to real masters, and I was thoroughly humiliated.
Well, that's because everybody sizes each other up. I mean, that's also
it's not even sizing each other up. It's just like there's different. Let me just say this: when I traveled with the head warrior monk of the Shaolin Temple, I have a different relationship, because I actually was responsible for building the international brand of Shaolin through storytelling and content and live events, and of course Shaolin Temple. You said earlier that, oh, you never practice Kung Fu, you learn Taekwondo, but let me just say this, that I think every martial artist for the most part agrees that it all comes from Shaolin. So Shaolin is literally the mother lode of all these Eastern martial arts forms that are anywhere. So any person who's practiced karate or judo or you know, different variations of it, you're kind of practicing a different version of Shaolin at some point. So according to the head warrior monk of the Shaolin Temple, he says, if you haven't practiced for 18 years in a row, you haven't even begun the journey. Like if you have this steadfast, if you had a practice of 18 years on a regular basis, it means that you actually, the door is open onto you. Until that point, you don't even, you're still kind of, you're still in diapers.
It's true. And how many people go on and off with martial arts because they can't commit themselves fully?
Yeah. So I mean, like, you can practice a few forms, or you can look good, or you have a high moment, you can, or these days, in the days of social media, or the days of instant enlightenment, or, that Kung Fu literally means mastery, and that the kind of things that we're really talking about is super mastery. And unfortunately, I think modernity, the lifestyles we live, and the different things that we are focused with means that we're not really spending the kind of time to really dive deeply into this living lineage. So just so
JD
and
Smith.
because I respect it and I love it and I've seen it, I would never say that, because I would never say that I am that, because I've seen what that is and I am nowhere near that.
That's a very humble thing. I have to.
It's not a humble thing. Like it's
no, it is. Yeah. It is a humble thing, and I agree with the fact that from your point of view, it's truth, because it is truth, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between saying I do martial arts and really immersing yourself in that world and really capturing the essence of what the foundations are of it. Like, you're 100% right about how Kung Fu and has had a major influence over Eastern culture. Overall, China in general has had a major influence over Korean culture. Koreans
Korean culture is Han culture, and look, Koreans are the brethren of the Han Chinese. In fact, look, they're deeply interconnected. Those waters run very, very deep. Japanese culture, Korean culture, they all have a very, very common source at different chapters of Chinese dynasties. And our Vietnamese march based on Shaolin to
show him the Steven Seagal comment. I'm sorry, I've been reading the comments. That's why I've been kind of like chuckling. But JD Smith says he studied under the tutelage of Steven.
Yes. Well, look, then you figured out how to break a guy's arm in 10 different ways. Like, that's another like, oh yeah, like I have a serious problem with the kind of violence and showiness that's kind of taken root. So in some ways, Kung Fu has turned into very showy, very exhibitionism. But the real martial arts masters that I've seen, they're incredibly reserved. And one of the things they're forbidden to do is you're not going to be a show-off. In fact, if you're, as a disciple, if your tendency is to do those things, you're not going to be shown the real keys. And that kind of really does, it's almost like it counters the face of modernity, and wanting to create stories like Fa Sheng and building the whole story verse is like, I want to take this genre that has been bastardized and commercialized to its founding ideals and principles. And I think that's really entertaining too. And I think it's really inspiring. And I think in this kind of day and age, there's a moment for this. And I think Marvel has already run out of steam in my view. I think the superhero genre, as much as I love it, I'm a big fan of it, I feel like is passing its baton to something else. And I think that the time of wuxia as a super genre has come, because it really speaks to that desire in all of us to be the best version of ourselves. And there's a real living lineage. It actually works.
Yeah, it's actually real like fight in a real fighting combat system. Like, it's something that people like to practice. Yeah.
Not just in a combat sense, but for total health, for clarity of mind, for clarity of intention. Because you know as well as I do, a real warrior shows up as a warrior no matter where you go, whether it's in business or in family life or in relationships or just taking care of business or helping others. Service and being of service is really the first hallmark of the true hero.
I agree with that 100%. And I'm sorry, our viewers are making a lot of jokes that are just making me giggle. So I'm sorry about that. Everything you're saying is awesome. But
hey,
Rob,
I don't have access to this, so I can't read the room.
Yeah,
so
you can't see it, right. Yeah, Kyle, we got to show him some of these comments here.
Show me some of those comments.
Chris Nyskull, Onrie is part of Cobra Kai, so he can take Wesley Snipes to tax down. That one, guys, I'm going to start laughing while Peter is saying something awesome, and it's not. I apologize, Peter.
No. Look, I get it. I'm a fanboy too. I love Cobra Kai. I mean, look, you can have fun with all of those things, but
yeah, but come on, Cobra Kai, Ralph Macchio. That guy's not a real martial artist, man. I mean, he's a great actor. I love him. I absolutely love him. But like that guy's, and I've talked about it in jest on my sales shows. Like he and Finn Jones. I don't know if you saw Iron Fist on Netflix, but come on, man, like that is not real martial arts. So what you were saying earlier about how Marvel's losing steam, I think that there is something to be said about that. Like it's been a week, and I've had no desire to even see this new Doctor Strange movie. Usually, I'm like. At the forefront, but I'm kind of fatigued. There's just so much stuff coming out. Like you got one show after the other, and it's like there's no space to breathe in between. There's just so much stuff coming out. And granted, we've been waiting a long time for it, but it's just like all this speculation, all this talk and everything. And what's really cool about what you're doing is it's fresh. And the fact that no one's talking about it means that you can get in on the ground level of this right now. So guys, if you're watching this show, and you're a fan of Yi Sun Shin, and you're a fan of any of the other martial arts epics that we have showcased on Kickin It, I highly recommend checking out this campaign featuring the artwork from the same artist who's going to be doing Warline, which we're going to be launching later this year on Kickstarter. Really, really fantastic creator here who has a very indigenous desire to bring, or a desire to bring his indigenous culture to the world. And that's a tremendous undertaking. It really is amazing. And I just think so tell us about your movie career. So you said you produced film. What movies did you produce?
Look, I don't want to talk about my movie career if you don't.
Oh yeah, of course. That's okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spotlight.
No. It's not just that I'm here for comics.
Oh, of course. Sure.
Anyways, I try because I feel like people do talk about they treat comics almost like a stepping stone, and I just don't want to do that.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah.
And now as a member of the community, I'm offended when people come to comics and think that, oh, I'm just going to make a comic and then quickly I'm going to go out and make the movie, and they do that specifically for that purpose, and I'm really not down for that. Yeah,
no, I understand that. I think that if you're the first goal should always be to tell a good story.
No, because if you don't get this part right, you don't get any part right.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So, what are your next plans? Where are you in the campaign right now? And
we've got 10 more days to go. And I have my second screen here. I'm looking at. We have 11 days more to go. We've got 288 folks. We'd like to blow past this number, the next big benchmark. I don't know if I want to call out to your users, your fans right now to help us get past 10,000. That would be great if we could shut this puppy down and get us to big milestones.
So Anvu is actually backing your campaign right now, and she's saying she's having a hard time choosing covers. There's awesome artists. I agree. Peter, why don't you? Here's a better question for you. Why don't you tell us about the variant covers and the other creators that you had contribute to this?
Sure. So if you're on the page right now, you're seeing kind of a really interesting shot. You're seeing a guy with pigtails. On the one hand, you have to the right, you have this. That's the LA skyline, and it's actually very intentional because the home base. You already have Gotham. That's in DC, so we know that it's New York. So I think the whole comic world has kind of favored the East Coast versus the West Coast. So we are West Coast, and the home of the Immortal Storyverse is my hometown, Los Angeles. So this kind of cover that's done by Ishan, who's the artist from The Adept, kind of really captures what this kind of story is, which is this ancient master, and he started with a pigtail. And he also has a modern day machination. So that's one of the variant covers done by Ishan Lee. And if you scroll down, we have a separate cover done by, this is kind of the official cover by Dexter Wee. And here you see his love of classic movies from the wuxia genre. And this one, you could say that
cover. It's so awesome. And I wish we could see it, but if you guys just click on the link, you guys can open up separate windows. You guys have the link in the comments. It's all there. But definitely check this out. The Dexter Wee cover is really just fantastic. I love
for Jet Li fans. This is a throwback to the Once Upon a Time in China series. Also, for people who are fans of Hong Kong cinema, you can see a lot of those influences. And in speaking about the ambition of what we're doing, the South Asian man in the background is Bodhidharma, the co-founder of the Shaolin Temple. So you kind of get a big hint of what's to come in this very, very ambitious story. And that's a separate cover. I'm going down, and the third cover, if you scroll down, this is the cover done by Gene Ha. Gene is quickly becoming one of our favorite variant cover artists. For those of you who are into his work, you guys got to check out what he did for us on The Adept. And what he did here is, instead of focusing on Fa Sheng, who's kind of the easy character to go with, he kind of went with the villain. So here we see like the villains, the guys who really made out during the Boxer uprising were the warlords, the people who had the largesse. So you see like the big, large backdrop of the times, and how these warlords benefited from the average person, the serfs, the farmers, the peasants. And so this is kind of we're starting with the baddies over here, and Gene is paying homage to the other side of the column. This is one of the variant covers, and right below that we see the complete Fa Sheng title, and to the right you see Amy, who is the hero of The Adept, and she is the #1 disciple to Fa Sheng, who eventually becomes the master. And below that we see the variant cover by Don Kramer. Here you have more of a Shaolin temple. You have the large Buddha statues. You see a later depiction of Fa Sheng when he actually goes and arrives at the Shaolin temple.
Another thing I want to point out, you mentioned Don Kramer, Gene Ha. Not only are these guys local to me, and I know Don personally, he's half Korean. Gene Ha is also Korean. Seems like you brought a lot of Asian. All of your artists are Asian, which I think is really cool.
We wanted to bring authenticity to it. Yeah, I think, and that's part of the contribution we want to make, because Asian looks and feels are actually incredibly diverse, and we wanted to give the great Asian artists in comics a chance to kind of do things that they might not have had the chance to do before.
Well, Peter, I should really put you in touch with Anvu, because Anvu is also an artist, and she just did a variant cover for my series, which is about a Korean admiral. And she did a phenomenal job, and I think she would, love to connect with you at some point. You should really check out her artwork as well. Just, making that connection. And it looks like she's backing your campaign right now. And I'm just telling you, such incredible work. And she's absolutely fantastic. Now here's another question for you. How long is it going to take you once you're done with your campaign to fulfill your orders? Like when can we expect to actually get a finished copy of Fa Sheng in our hands?
Within a few weeks. I mean, the book is already done. The book is already done.
You guys are printing it and everything.
We still have to close the campaign, I think, to push the buttons on printing, but it'll be very quick. We've already reserved the print time already, so that's another reason that we're really seeking support. As you know, these things are actually pretty expensive to start a print run.
Now you're in the middle of your campaign, and this is kind of like that breaking point where it's tough. You know, the middle of a campaign is always where things slow down, and it doesn't matter how good or how bad your campaign is. It's just you're at that point, and
yeah. So you're speaking like a pro. Yeah, exactly. It's that.
So how are you doing right now? Like what's going on? How are you getting through this period?
Well, look, the beauty of what we do is we actually have a team approach. So we're able to pass the baton when I get a little burnt out. You know, a team member will step up and do it, or have some fresh energy and ideas. This is our 4th campaign, so I think we're starting to develop a stomach for it. In fact, this is just the time for us to do things like this, to do outreach. You know, like earlier in the campaign, I wouldn't have time to being out there, connecting with new friends and building community. So we're just kind of going out there and doing outreach.
Speaking of outreach, how where else can we find your books? Are you distributing books through comic shops? Are you going to conventions? Are there any conventions that will?
We did our first major convention at WonderCon this year. We even hosted a panel. All of our creators came out. We had a booth. I can share that we're going to be in Comic-Con in a big way this year.
Excellent. So you guys are going to be set up at San Diego Comic-Con.
We're going to be at San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to have several panels where we're actually going to go deep into the Immortal storyverse. So this is just a preview of what's to come. We'll also be sharing some new titles. As you know, we have a 4-pillar approach, and Fasching is the 3rd pillar. We'll have a 4th pillar out by then. So we'll be presenting for the first time 4 titles in the core foundations of the Immortal storyverse at San Diego Comic-Con this year. So it's a really exciting moment, and I'm not going to get ahead of our own news cycle, but we are expecting some exciting announcements about the future of our titles and when they're going to hit actual bookstores and graphic novels, etc. So let me just say that we have really, really exciting plans already in the works.
That's excellent. That's awesome. So these 4 pillars are basically the foundation of your publishing line, and this is kind of, it's all going to be set within one world, and you're going to continue to expand on these.
And each of these pillars actually represent a subgenre within the martial arts fantasy genre. Because I know they're fans to Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai would be like the first quadrant in your neighborhood dojo, where you're fighting and practicing things that you can look, touch, and feel that's believable. It's still grounded by gravity, and then as it slowly moves up, it goes to like a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon kind of world. So things are becoming surreal. The use of chi and energy and weapons become far more mystical and gravity-defying. And then you go into even more supernatural. That's kind of where the Matrix would live in our world. And for us, it's Chronicles of the Immortal Swordsman. And Fa Sheng is actually the highest one, even though in this first issue, you're seeing a lot of awesome, realistic kung fu action. But as the story progresses, it actually becomes a lot more mystical. And so we're dealing with really amazing things like enlightenment and a really, really expansive understanding of life. So these 4 quadrants are actually where, no matter where you've been, whether it's Star Wars or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon or Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, they all fit in some kind of continuum, but they've never been put together in this way. So we are the first one to really offer the martial arts fantasy big tent, but still in a very authentic and interconnected way. So those are the four pillars, and that's what we're unveiling this year. And for those of you who are backing the Fa Sheng right now, you are enabling us to build out these verticals in real time.
Picking up an Immortal sword book. That's excellent. Thank you, Anvu.
Oh, that one of my favorite titles is Chronicles of the Immortal Swordsman, which I actually wrote. The others I created the stories and then I would recruit and I would oversee, but that was the one that I actually wrote myself. And it
How
also
does it feel being pulled back from that? Like I'm as a creator myself, I like to be very hands-on with as much of the book as I possibly can be, and I think that is probably one of the reasons why I can't produce really fast, which is I think one of those things you need in order to be a freelance writer. But you seem to be able to understand where you're better fitted in the project. So what are your responsibilities aside from creating? Like, how are you overseeing? Are you just kind of looking at the scripts that are being written and making sure that they're up to the standard that you want, or are you?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is really trusting your creative partners. Like we're very fortunate. We actually have a very rigorous project and process in terms of looking for the writers for our titles. So I think a lot of our work is done just by choosing wisely at the outset and having a lot of interactions with them, so that we get to a very comfortable place with each other. And then just reading the scripts is just really catching things. And for me, the authenticity part is really important to me. So I'm usually the authenticity police, and I go through not police. That's almost like a
No, but that's what it is. You gotta watch.
Just protecting the lineage. Because just having shared the ideas of where this is supposed to go, and just making sure that gets enforced. I didn't start off wanting to be a writer necessarily. I don't have a strong desire like I have to write, but I am a creator. And so I just really focused on creating at scale, which is really focusing more of my time and energy on the universe. Like my task from now until the end of the month is really creating the next 6 titles.
So you're basically at that Stan Lee level for your company, where you're basically kind of lighting the way for the direction of where you want things to go. And then you're bringing on top talent to basically put this together, and you're overseeing it to make sure it falls in line with the way you want it to be, the way it needs to be. And you're doing all the right things, because I say money because it is money at the end of the day. We're all in this because we love it, but we're also not in it for charity. We want to build something bigger and reap the benefit from it.
And also, I think, again, I cannot take the credit for myself. We're incredibly fortunate. Like for all 4 of our titles have extraordinary writers who have super impressive resumes. They're my teachers in the comic or writing form. It's just that I think I have a very unique vision for the genre, and that's what that's what I bring to the party. And I'm also looking for a story world that's kind of reflective of this unique moment in where we live as humans. You're like, look, if you pull back from what we are today, I think we'd all agree these are really challenging times. Really, really complex times that we're living through, that we're all going through it. And so I'm just hoping that, look, I think we're all trying to deal with it in our own way. Sometimes we want escapism. Sometimes we want realism. And I'm just hoping that our storyverse gives people a chance to move through them.
That's a very noble thing, and a very important thing, because I think, if, let's say, and hearkening back to what you were saying before about the career you were pursuing in politics and how you decided you wanted to share culture instead, and what you're doing, that sacrifice, because I know that sacrifice, what it does, what it means financially. I know what it means time-wise. I know what it means stress-wise. It's a lot harder when you're in a field
and
where
knows as well as I do and what that means hair-wise.
Yes, I do. See, you wear a hat. You're smart. I just wear this Obama shirt. You look good.
Hair-wise.
Good, buddy.
No, I still have hair, but yes, hair-wise was the hair also takes a big cut. Look,
But not on
ultimately,
the base, though. We got this going. This
yes,
is still like that. Eh?
no, you know what? I feel blessed by it. I just really feel blessed by it, and as a creative person, and I know many of your the people watching this are probably creators as well. That it's kind of an amazing affliction, right? It's an affliction, but once you give into it and you experience the magic of it, you don't want to give that up.
Well, it's what I had a guest a couple months ago, Andrea Molinari. He's an editor and creator over at Scout Comics. He's the creator of a wonderful series called The Shepherd. And he said, you see, he came on right when the war with Russia and Ukraine began.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a very poignant statement that we're creators. We don't destroy things, we build things.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to what you were saying about politics, is that by making this sacrifice, by coming in here and taking on this incredibly huge undertaking, what you're ultimately doing is leaving a legacy behind, because your work is going to be here forever. And those books, once you get them out there, and once they're circulating and out in the world, and the more stuff you create, the more stuff that's out there, it's always going to be out there. And people are going to be talking about it, because it's always going to end up in someone's comic collection 10, 20 years from now. And I see this happen all the time. There's so many independent books that I just come across in lots that I'll just pick up and I'll be like, huh, this is weird. Hey, check this book out. It's Sam Marie,
Mm-hmm.
It's Boris the Bear. It's, books that were published 15, 20, 30 years ago now are still circulating. So
you're so right. And for me to be given a chance to do that with my own father's works, because he did that with his 61 titles, and in fact, many of the books you see behind me belong to him, and it's now formally part of the Immortal storyverse, and like Chronicles of the Immortal Swordsman, he wrote, and I've had a chance to bring it to life and modernize it. And our next title is also one of his titles. So being able to do that with my father's legacy and kind of melding my legacy with his, that's like magic,
It is. I Peter, I have so much respect and admiration for what you're doing, man. I think it's really, really cool. And I think it's absolutely incredible just how you've managed to build something out of essentially just childhood memories and experiences with your father. You're keeping your father's memory alive, and that's
very much so. So we had this moment, and of course, it's kind of keeping this lineage of wuxia alive. It's been around for a few thousand years, and it ebbs and flows. And I think we're at this moment right now where we could actually excavate this thing that's always been about creating heroes. And, I think we can use them right now.
I agree.
We could use them right now. And I just want to say thank you to all of the people watching, because I know this is and especially those people who back individual creators like this. What you guys do, it's extraordinary. You really enable dreams to happen. And it's just been such a blessing to be part of these communities. And frankly, I feel like I've become a better person from being in these communities, because as I've received so much from others, I've learned to, that, hey, this is about the flow. So I can honestly say I've become a more giving person as a result of being involved in Kickstarters and joining the comic community, because people have given so much to us that I just feel like it's now incumbent upon me to be as giving as they have to me, so that the energy flows. And even people like you, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this show.
I do have to. It's my job, and I want to do it. I do it because I love it.
So that's the spirit of it.
If there was no, I look for books like yours. I'm looking for more of this kind of stuff. So I'm glad and my audience is looking for this stuff too, and I think that a very important aspect of what we do is supporting each other. This is what is comics is all about. A rising tide raises all ships. We're all in this together. And there's nothing similar to what even if there's similarities to what we're doing, like say Fa Sheng and Yi Sun Shin have, the only similarity that they have is that they're both set in Asia. Other than that, these are their own separate stories. So
you can say all comics take place on planet Earth.
Exactly. And if we support each other and share what we learn from our successes, this is how we grow, and this is how we get to that next step. And you are doing it. But Peter, I hate to do this, and I want to let you know that I want to invite you back at any point. You're always welcome back here. I absolutely love to have you here. But we got to wrap up because we got Nick's original art show coming up. So I want to give you a moment just to say goodbye and let everybody know where we can best support you, and where they can find you.
Everybody, you've heard a lot about Fa Sheng and my origin story. I just want to say thank you guys for considering supporting Fa Sheng. If you're still sitting on the fence, I just want to invite you to go over to Kickstarter, show us some love. Know that we're doing something that requires a lot of heavy lifting. So to the extent that you've been inspired or you like what we're doing, follow us on social, participate on Kickstarter. I don't care how much you give, but just adding your name to the mix. And that, look, I would love to be back here in the future, as we have so many more stories coming in, and it'll be fun just to kind of make this as a regular stop so that we could all work together.
Absolutely, Peter. The door is open, my friend. Thank you so much, folks. Yes, absolutely. Anytime, man. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We got to cut this short now because Nick's show is coming on, and it's his birthday. So be sure to check out Nick's original art show right now and support him on his birthday. Thank you for tuning in for Kickin' It with Onrie, the live crowdfunding show. I will see you guys next week. Peace out.
Everybody.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.